Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We are here to talk about immune boosting foods. So, if that's not what you were here to listen about, then you're probably at the wrong presentation. Anyhow, I am going to be sharing my screen, so you will be seeing my PowerPoint presentation. So, you probably want me in the smaller screen on your screen so you could see the slides as the main focus, okay? All right. So before we get really into our discussion, the nuts and bolts of immune boosting foods, I just wanted to properly introduce myself and share some things about me. First things first, I've been a dietitian for over 20 years now, which seems crazy to me. I've worked in a variety of different I was muted for a moment, so I apologize. So I've been a dietitian for over 20 years. I've worked in long-term care, acute care setting. I've worked in dialysis, and now I work in mostly community health. Um, One thing you should know about me as a dietitian is I am definitely not a believer in of any fad diets. So if you ever ask me about a fad diet, I will no good. And I always like to start a presentation with a quote about health or nutrition or something funny or interesting. And I really like this quote from Emerson that says, "The first health is wealth." Um, this quote might mean something different to different people. It might even mean something entirely different to Emerson, but to me, it means uh, you really can't prosper without good health. Okay. And lastly, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today virtually. I wish that we could be doing it in person, and maybe by, this time next year, we will be doing it in person, but I'm just grateful that we have this platform like Zoom so we can continue to learn together. Okay. So I bet you all want to know how to improve your immune system. I mean, why else would you be watching this, right? It definitely seems to be quite the hot topic nowadays, considering, the pandemic that we're in. This morning, we are going to talk about what you can do to boost your immune system. And for this presentation, we're going to, be focusing specifically how we can do this through food, okay? But before we get started on that, it should be noted that although we can help our immune systems by trying to eat the right foods, getting the right vitamins, getting the right minerals, your first line of defense to strengthen your immune system is to choose a healthy lifestyle overall. When talking about immune system, I would not feel right by saying that in general. And what does that mean exactly? A healthy lifestyle means the following things: um, eating a diet high in fruits and vegetables and lean protein, exercising regularly. And that doesn't necessarily mean doing hours of cardio. It could be just, going for a walk. If you drink alcohol at all, doing so only in moderation, getting enough sleep at night. There are more and more studies showing how important sleep actually is to our health, um, minimizing and managing our stress levels, and avoiding smoking. Okay. A good immune system relies on a healthy lifestyle. So, changing your eating habits may be one step in the right direction to do just that. Okay. And that is going to be the focus of our presentation. But again, I wanted to mention all of this as part of a healthy lifestyle. Um, Unfortunately, most of us don't eat enough fruits and vegetables as well as other foods to keep us healthy year round. And when I'm talking about other foods, I'm talking lean meats and unprocessed foods. I don't know about you, but I prefer to be healthy year round, have a good immune system year round, not just when flu season is here or when we have a pandemic around. It isn't about just taking some vitamin C pills and crossing our fingers and thinking, okay, this is how we're going to get a healthy immune system. Okay. Because when it comes down to it, a truly healthy immune system depends on a healthy diet over time. Think of it like training for battle and preparing your body for the battle, so it's ready when it times comes to go to war, to fight off those viruses, to fight the bacteria and the toxins. Okay, there are likely hundreds and thousands of supplements out there. It's usually best to get your vitamins and minerals through food rather than a pill form. Okay. There may be some exceptions to this, I will say that, but if you choose to take a supplement, I would definitely advise talking to your doctor first, especially if you're taking any prescription medications, because sometimes even vitamins and minerals are contraindicated if you're taking certain medication. And again, I know the title of this is Immune Boosting Foods, but to really find out what foods help with our immunity, we have to break it down further and talk about specific nutrients and in what foods we can find these nutrients. Okay. Now we're going to dive in, find out what nutrients can potentially play a role in immune system and, boosting it. The first one we're going to talk about is likely a no-brainer. I'm sure most of you have heard of this one, vitamin C, especially again when it comes to cold and flu season. The recommended amount of vitamin C per day is different for men and women. For men, it's about 90 milligrams a day, and women, it's 75 milligrams. And why is vitamin C important? Well, it helps prevent infections, or it may help prevent infections, and it also is important because it may shorten the length of time that we're actually sick or have the illness. Vitamin C may also boost immunity by helping white blood cells work more effectively. Okay, so these are important reasons why we talk about vitamin C when it comes to our immunity. And where do we find vitamin C? What are some good food sources? I'm sure the first thing that comes to mind for most people when we talk about vitamin C are citrus fruits, but it's good to know that there are other good quality food sources of vitamin C. Spinach, kale, bell peppers, strawberries, papaya, broccoli, tomatoes, all the citrus fruits. Okay. And just to get an idea of how much vitamin C are in some of these, red peppers, for instance, if you were to have a half a cup, that's about 95 milligrams, which is already more than you would need in a day. One medium orange has about 70 milligrams of vitamin C, and half a cup of strawberries is close to about 50 milligrams. So even though people might think, oh, if I have an orange, I'm getting tons of vitamin C, which you definitely are, red peppers actually have more than an orange does. And although your body can't make vitamin C on its own, it must be obtained through the food we eat. Vitamin C is in so many foods, such a variety of foods, that most people don't need a supplement. But as always, as I always recommend, if you do think you should take a supplement, always talk to your doctor before taking any. Okay, so that's vitamin C in a nutshell. Next up on the list of immune boosting foods, which you might not have thought would play a role, is vitamin D. This vitamin is important for immune system health, and it's actually so important to immune function that low levels of it have been associated with an increased risk for infection. The recommended amount for adults, 19 to 70. So this one, it's the age that's the difference. So if 19 to 70 is 600 international units per day, that's what IU stands for, international units. And adults 71 and over, it's 800 international units per day. Vitamin D is also sometimes called the sunshine vitamin, and that's because it's actually can be produced in your skin when it's exposed to sunlight. However, when you're living here in New Jersey and the winters seem long, as we're just getting out of it, or you wear sunscreen in the summer, or you don't get out often in the summer because you want to avoid the sun, then this mechanism really isn't happening or working that great. Okay. So that's when it's important to get it from our diet. I will say there are not a ton of food sources for vitamin D, but you can find it in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout, as well as some fortified foods. Fortified foods actually provide most of the vitamin D in the American diet, and fortified foods would be some of the dairy products like milk, orange juice, and fortified cereals. And to get an idea again about how much some of these foods contain, for salmon, a 3-ounce serving, and 3 ounces, to get a visualization, 3 ounces is about the size of a deck of cards. 3 ounces of salmon contains about 570 international units. Trout of the same portion size, 3 ounces, would be about 645 international units. Well, if you had a cup of fortified milk, it's about 120 international units. I will say this is likely the only vitamin I'd say many or most people need to supplement because of the limited food sources and because of our lack of sun exposure, especially in this area, and with the wearing of sunscreen. And also because there are so many people in general that are deficient. I find more and more doctors recommending vitamin D tests in your routine lab work because of the incidence of deficiency. If you think you are deficient, I would definitely recommend talking to your doctor to find out if you do need a supplement, and if you do need a supplement, how much you should be taking, okay? Because there are a lot of options as far as supplements, but so always talk to your healthcare provider first. Now we're going to move on to vitamin E, another one that you might not have associated with immunity, but for adults, it's recommended about 15 milligrams a day, daily. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. Okay, it helps your body fight off infection, and it's critical for your immune system functions. Okay, when you think about vitamin E and getting enough of it in your diet, vitamin E is associated mostly with high fat plant foods. Okay, which we'll discuss. The good food sources of vitamin E are things like vegetable oils. And some examples would be the wheat germ oils, sunflower, safflower oils. Nuts are a decent source as well. Almonds, peanuts, hazelnuts, avocado, sunflower seeds. There are some meat sources, mostly fish, salmon, trout, octopus. You can get it in some green vegetables like spinach and broccoli as well. Eating foods that have a lot of vitamin E isn't harmful, so you're likely never to overdose or take too much vitamin E if you're eating it. But if you do take a supplement and take too much of it, I'm got muted there for a second. I hope you didn't miss anything, but I'll just say, if you take a supplement, it's not without risk, because you usually will never overdose with eating too much, but taking too much of the supplement vitamin E may put you at risk. So always talk to your doctor about the supplementation. Also, if you're taking prescription medication, talk to your doctor before starting any vitamin E supplements, because there are potential drug nutrient interactions. Okay. And as far as some of these food sources, just to give you an idea of how much vitamin E is in it, because as we said in the previous one, you need about 15 milligrams a day for adults. Wheat germ oil, 1 tablespoon, has about 20 milligrams. Sunflower seeds, 1 ounce serving, which is not that big, has about 7 milligrams. Half a cup of cooked spinach has about 2 milligrams. And almonds, 1 ounce, which is not a large serving, has about 7 milligrams of vitamin E. Okay, now moving on to the next nutrient, that can support our immune system is zinc. It's again another wonderful immune boosting nutrient. It can help the immune system by fighting off invading bacteria and viruses. The amount of zinc a person needs is different between men and women. That's the difference. Men need about 11 milligrams a day, while women need about 8 milligrams a day. I will say that zinc tends to be better absorbed from animal sources rather than plant sources, but you can find zinc in some vegetarian foods as well. Most people in the United States do get enough zinc from the foods we eat. So again, men need about 11 milligrams, women about 8 milligrams. Some good food sources of zinc are seafood like oysters, crab, and lobster. You can get it from lean meat and poultry, chicken or turkey, yogurt. But again, there are some plant sources. Those would be like chickpeas or some other beans like baked beans, and nuts, cashews, and almonds. Okay. And again, the amount was 11 for men, 8 for women. Oysters, if you eat oysters, a 3-ounce serving, which again is about the size of a deck of cards, has 74 milligrams of zinc. So that's quite a lot if you only need, say, 11 milligrams for men, but I'm sure most people aren't eating oysters daily. Beef has about 7 milligrams per 3-ounce serving. And chickpeas, a half a cup, has 1.3 milligrams. Again, most people get enough zinc in their diets. Now we're going to talk about selenium, which most people probably don't hear a lot about. It's not a nutrient that's widely talked about, but it is good for immune system when it comes to boosting our immunity. It seems to have a powerful effect on the immune system, being important for preventing infections. It's recommended adults get about 55 micrograms a day. That's what the MCG stands for, is micrograms. Animal foods are the best sources of selenium, with the exception of Brazil nuts. Believe it or not, it's so interesting. One Brazil nut, just one nut, has more than 100% of the daily value. Okay. So too many of Brazil nuts on a regular basis can actually be a potential problem. So I think that's just an interesting fact. You can look for selenium in foods like seafood, tuna, halibut, sardines, enriched macaronis, ham, brown rice, beef, whole wheat, bread, liver, oatmeal, in a variety of things. So it can come from animal and vegetable sources like lentils, oatmeal, whole wheat bread. So again, mostly in animal sources, but some plant sources. And to give you an idea, Brazil nuts, 1 ounce, which is about 6 to 8 nuts, has 544 micrograms. You only need about 55 micrograms a day. So in 6 to 8 nuts, you almost have, you have about 544 micrograms, okay? Halibut, 3 ounces, has 47 micrograms, which is again close to the amount you would need in a day. Brown rice, 1 cup cooked, 19 micrograms. And again, you only need 55 micrograms a day. Last but not least, we're going to talk about protein. Protein is important for strengthening our immunity because it helps form the cells that operate our immune system. Okay, protein is important when it comes to building and repairing tissue, as well as fighting off viral and bacterial infections. The immune system powerhouses like antibodies and immune system cells rely heavily on protein. So it's important to make sure we're getting enough in our diet daily. And which brings me to my next bullet point, which is how much protein should we be getting in our diet? Generally, the average is about 0.8 to 1 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And to figure this out is pretty simple. If you know your weight in pounds, like I gave an example here, if you're about 125 pounds, You would divide your weight in pounds by 2.2 to get your weight in kilograms. So if you're 100, about 125 pounds, that's about 57 kilograms. And then you would just multiply that by 0.8 to 1. And that's about the range of protein you need per day. Okay. And don't forget, this is very important. Protein does not just come from animal sources, it does come from plant sources as well. And it's important not to just get protein from animal sources. Okay, we want to, mix it up, get some plant source protein in there. Now, and that brings us to what are good sources of protein. Protein from animal sources include like lean meats. And when I say lean meat, I'm talking about beef that even pictured here is just mostly red. If you see meat that has a lot of white rippled through that, you want to avoid beef like that. When you're getting ground beef, I would go for the 93% lean ground beef. Also poultry, turkey, and chicken with the skin removed, that would be a good source. Eggs, fish, seafood, as well as protein can be found in dairy products, cheese, milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, they all contain protein. And again, the plant sources, beans, peas, lentils, soy, nuts, seeds. Lentils are wonderful because they have fiber in them, they have protein in them, and they have iron in them. So if you have never tried lentils, I always recommend people trying them in their diet. Now, how much protein are in some of these things? 3 ounces of meat, I'm talking whether it's fish, chicken, beef, turkey, pork, 3 ounces, again, about the size of a deck of cards, has about 21 grams of protein, okay? 1 cup of milk, whether it's skim or regular milk, has about 8 grams of protein in it per 1 cup. Tofu, 3/4 of a cup, has 12 grams of protein. If you're going to do seeds like pumpkin seeds, a 1/4 cup has 17 grams of protein, and 1/2 cup of cooked lentils has about 12 grams of protein. So again, varying it between plant sources and animal sources. I will say that your milk substitutes will have typically less protein than a dairy, like a regular milk. So if you're using almond milk or soy milk, you can always check the label to see how much protein is in it. Okay, so now that we've discussed some specific nutrients that we should consider when it comes to boosting our immune system, how do we put this all together? It should be noted there's definitely not one specific nutrient or one specific food that's going to magically boost our immunity, okay? It's eating enough nutrients with a variety of foods that we need for the health and function of our cells, including our immune cells, okay? Sure, there definitely are examples of nutrients that we talked about today that are critical for our immune cells. But if you continue to eat a diet that's high in processed foods, that is low in fruits and vegetables, this can do the opposite and it can have negative effects on our immune system, okay? The focus really needs to be on eating a balanced diet, which includes fruit, vegetables, lean proteins, low-fat dairy, whole grains, and plenty of water, okay? And to wrap things up, I just want to say that the immune system is complex. Yes, we need to make sure we're eating a healthy diet that includes the nutrients we discussed, the vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, zinc, selenium, and protein. But we need to consider that our immune system, it's about getting, enough sleep at night. And when I say enough sleep, I'm talking about 7 to 9 hours per night. I'm kind of wrapping it up from where we started in the beginning. Okay, 7 to 9 hours per night. Again, there are so many studies coming out about how important our sleep is. We want to, if you drink alcoholic beverages, drink them in moderation only. Getting regular exercise. Again, as I said in the beginning, it doesn't have to be cardio for hours. It could be, just walks, just having a exercise routine, managing our stress levels, not smoking. If you do smoke, trying to quit. And of course, I guess our immunity, also, we have to think about washing our hands regularly to protect ourselves and others. So while nutrition plays a huge role in it, um, it comes down to balance, eating a variety of fruits and vegetables. And when I say that, they're all included. I usually like to say eating the rainbow from, red to purple to green, yellow, the lean proteins, and just making a healthy, wise choices. So that concludes the major portion of the presentation. It's at this time I'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have. I know that there are some
Yes.
questions that came through on the Q&A, is it?
Yep. So yeah, thank you so much, Nicole. That was amazing. It was just really such important information, and you make it sound very manageable to do these things. So yeah, there is a few questions if I could, ask, and thank you so much for being willing to answer them.
I'm ready. Shoot them.
Okay, great. You were talking about vitamin C in certain foods, and how much, like, I guess in particular vitamin C, do you think it's reduced a great deal when we cook, like spinach, broccoli, bell peppers, etc.? What are your take on that?
You know, any cooking method, any and all cooking method will, I don't want to say reduce the quality, but it does take out some of the nutrients. But I wouldn't worry about it too much as long as you're getting, I like to say at least 3 servings of vegetables a day and 2 servings of fruit. It does vary person to person, but if you're getting that much, and I like a leafy green vegetable a day, I wouldn't worry too much about the cooking process. If you are, when you do cook, don't cook your vegetables until they're, mush. I would leave them kind of on the sort of al dente side.
Well, that's good. Um, Someone who's vegan, any tips on how they can get vitamin D through foods?
So if you're vegan, vitamin D might be an issue. That's where you might want to get tested. Ask your doctor to do blood work the next time you visit with them. Otherwise, it would mostly be fortified foods. So if you're doing like a soy milk, almond milk, or a milk alternative, a lot of them are fortified with vitamin D as well as calcium. So it definitely make sure you're choosing one that's fortified, as well as, if you're doing a yogurt alternative, they usually will be fortified. Cereals, a lot of time our grains will be fortified with vitamin D. You just want to always check the label. But again, it's going to be hard because vitamin D is mostly from animal sources. And it should not go without saying that even if you're not vegan, if you eat animal sources, still people are deficient in vitamin D. Again, check with your doctor, have them test your levels.
Okay. Are there any juices that you would suggest? I know you mentioned juices being a problem. Are there any juices better than others?
Juice, if you're going to drink juice at all, I would limit it to maybe 4 ounces a day. Juice in general, really, it doesn't provide much nutrition. If you do drink orange juice, I would maybe get it fortified. Some of them have calcium in it. Some might even have vitamin D, but juice is mostly just sugar, unfortunately. I'd rather see people eat fruit because you're getting the phytonutrients, the fiber, which is not there present in juice.
Okay. Question just about recommendation for water consumption. Is there a particular?
So again, everyone's different, but I kind of like to use take your body weight in pounds. So say you're 150 pounds, divide it in 2. That's about 75. That's approximately about how much water you should be drinking in ounces. So, someone 150 pounds, it's divided in two, it's 75. That's about how many ounces you should be drinking.
Okay.
Or you could just go with getting at least 8 cups a day, at least 64 ounces.
Mhm. What fruits have the least amount of sugar?
What fruit?
What fruits? Yeah. Are there,
Um, so it is said that berries are generally lower in sugar, but sometimes I kind of like to put the question back out there and say, I would, or I should say, I wouldn't worry so much about the sugar in fruit. I would worry more about the sugar in the, you know, um, processed or boxed foods we're eating. They hide sugar in everything from salad dressings to spaghetti sauce. If you're choosing low fat products, a lot of times they substitute it with sugar. That's the sugar we should be worried about. I wouldn't worry about whether you're going to eat a banana that might have a little more sugar in it than blueberries.
okay. Um, when people cook with olive oil, does that greatly reduce nutrients in vegetables when we cook with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you have any commentary about milk in terms of nutritional value? Captain
Um,
Milk, I'm
if
thinking.
you like milk and you drink milk, it's great for calcium and vitamin D. I would choose like a 1% or 1.5% or lower, only because the regular milk contains more saturated fat, which is not good as far as heart health. But if you're a milk drinker, I it is good for nutrition as far as calcium and vitamin D. Um, some people, I think, get in their minds that they should be switching to almond milk or a milk alternative for health reasons. But if you have no issue with dairy, I would suggest still sticking with regular milks.
Okay. Somebody had an interesting question. Um, if you go to your dentist, are
Mhm.
there any ways that deficiencies that dental hygienists can kind of find during an exam?
That's
Anything that,
a great question, but I would probably talk to the dental hygienist about that. Because there are,
hmm, signs of?
probably signs with your gums, inflammation and bleeding, possibly. But I would turn that question over to the dental hygienist. They probably would
Mhm.
be able to tell you more.
Okay, that's a good question. Um, okay, I remember this commercial, but is pork considered a red or white meat?
Um,
I think it's white, right?
I would think pork is a white meat.
Because remember at one point years ago, there was a campaign and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
another white meat, pork.
yeah, yeah. I would say it's a white meat. I think pork might get a bad rap because it's used in so many processed items. But if you're using like pork tenderloin, I mean, there are some pieces of pork that is just meat. You might have some of the fat on the outside that you could always trim off or not eat. But if you're eating even a pork chop, a boneless pork chop, usually a lot of times they're really lean.
Mm-hmm. Um, I know, like, what about spices, garlic, onion, those types of things? Would you say any of those boost immunity more than another, or do those things even help boost immunity?
Um, for this presentation, I didn't find much research on that. I'm sure there's a lot to be said about using, you know, spices like garlic, onion. I know like turmeric is getting very popular nowadays. It definitely does not hurt to add those in. When it comes to like onions and garlic, again, these are vegetables too. So sorry, I'm home, so my dog decided to come visit if you hear noises. um, I, I think cooking with them, using them, adding to your foods, it's only going to add another element of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, which will all help.
Mhm.
boost immunity. You know, I just picked some that stood out as far as immune boosting, but really, if you're, eh, it, it's all helpful.
Mhm. Right, right. And someone had mentioned something about vitamin K2. Have you heard anything about vitamin K or vitamin K2?
So I'm more familiar with it as far as when you're taking a vitamin D supplement. It is helps the vitamin D absorption. So usually I recommend if someone's going to take a vitamin D supplement that it has vitamin K in it as well to help with absorption. But again, always talk to your doctor because there are so many vitamin D supplements on the market with different amounts of international units, and there's also different forms of vitamin D. There's like vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. So I always recommend talk to your doctor, but vitamin K is good as far as helping with absorption of the vitamin D.
Okay, great. And just a couple more. Another question is
Mhm.
olive oil, I never heard of this, as good as wheat germ oil. Do you know anything about those?
To be honest, I don't know much.
Mm,
I don't know the difference between the two really.
okay.
I don't know if you would use wheat germ oil to cook with or more to add to something for the nutrition of it, to
Yeah.
be honest.
And I'm looking, is it
I
liquid?
love these interesting questions.
Yes, very, very much so. And someone had asked your any knowledge of vitamin B2, in particular vitamin B2. I think
As
it's B2 as far as what that helps with. Maybe it's vitamin B12. It says B2, but I've never heard of that. So,
maybe it's vitamin B12.
mhm,
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe vitamin B12 is um, found. uh, Don't
mhm.
quote me on this, but I believe from if memory serves, vitamin B12 is another one of those vitamins that's mostly found in animal sources.
Okay. All right. I think I'm just looking. I think that's about it for the questions.
Okay.
A lot of specifics on vitamins, but I know. Oh, and just one more. I don't know if you would know this. Is liquid consumption restricted to coconut water and skim milk, but very little plain water safe? Liquid consumption restricted to coconut water and skim milk. Not a lot of
So
plain water. Would that be
with so I would recommend water,
just plain water?
plain water, because I don't know the nutrient facts or the nutrition facts with coconut water.
Mhm,
But I only say water because milk is great. I would say 1 to 3 cups a day if you're not getting your dairy from any other sources or calcium from any other sources. But coconut water probably has some sugar, some and calories. So if you're having coconut water as your main fluid intake, it probably is adding also calories to your diet. And I don't know necessarily if that's something that
mhm.
they would want to do.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it does.
You
Um,
want to choose unsweetened, beverages, and again, not beverages that are sweetened artificially. So you'd want to do like an unsweetened tea, water, seltzer, club soda.
okay, good. And I know another person just posted, and I'm interested in this too. And forgive me if you've already said this. Of course, we've heard a lot about taking zinc to, to prevent, or when you had COVID, or just to prevent it even. Could you, if you maybe repeat foods that have zinc in it,
Yes,
that
I'm
you
even
just
going to go
I
back
know you
to my
had unmuted.
slide. Can you see the slide?
I can, I can.
Okay, so and let me even go back one more.
Right. Hmm.
It's better absorbed from animal sources, but you can
Hmm.
find it in some plant sources. So again, a lot of your seafoods, oysters, crabs,
Hmm.
uh, red meat, but you can find it in some nuts, cashews, almonds, chickpeas, baked beans, and sometimes it might be hard to think about, well, how am I going to incorporate some of these things in my diet? Well, if you have a salad, you could throw some chickpeas on there. Um, Yogurt, you could take a plain Greek yogurt or just plain yogurt, add some berries in there. Maybe a drizzle, a little bit of honey. Almonds, you could, if you're eating oatmeal, you could add some almonds or nuts to your oatmeal or even to your salad.
Great. This is terrific. All right. You certainly went over that. This has been wonderful, Nicole. Thank you so much. It's
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
yes.